Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a globally recognized coach and an author from London, UK, Mr. Will Linssen. Will, welcome to the show.
Ashutosh, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Will is the founder of the Global Coach Group, which is a globally recognized leadership coach. He's the creator of Triple Win Leadership Coaching Methodology, and he's also an author of a book by the same name. So, Will, my first question, what was the turning point in your career that led you from corporate leadership to becoming a leadership coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. And thanks for starting with that. It's in the mid-90s, I was as a CEO running companies as a country CEO or regional CEO. And I was blessed to be in a number of executive training programs and had to coach myself and some of my managers and some of my team members. Also, I gave them a coach. And I just realized that, there's a lot of effort and investment being done. But if you then later start asking people, has that person become measurably better? Then I didn't see that from the people in my team. And I also didn't see that with my managers. So that whole idea of coaching gets better people, that was not necessarily something that was converted into reality. I mean, that was one reason I felt like, coaching is a great idea, but it doesn't really work the way it should be working. And then the other turning point was that I did my MBA in Switzerland and IMD early this century. And as part of that, we had some deep dives into some of the greatest companies at that time, GE and HP, obviously still great companies, but at that time they were the world's most admired companies. And they had some really great systems in place to basically grow leaders. And that was really the systems that really worked. And there was one famous quote from Jack Welch that time when they were asking about, the core competencies of GE. And his answer was, our core competency is to grow leaders at scale. I thought, that's really it, right? And then, I really always had enjoyed helping leaders getting better, helping teams getting better, and kind of really interested in people. So I thought, if you really want to do that as a business, then you need to step out of corporates, right, and really get into that whole coaching business. And that's what I did. So I finished my MBA and kind of stepped into that stream, what GE and HP were doing.
And as they say, the rest is history.
Exactly.
Will, you've worked across Europe, North America, and Asia. How have these diverse leadership landscapes with multiple cultures shaped your coaching philosophy?
So I started working internationally since my first job, really. That was in the late 80s. So for more than 35 years, I've been working across all those geographies. And many things, obviously, I learned. So one of the things is that as human beings, we have more in common than our passports divide us, right? So, and then the other important point is that when you involve coworkers in leadership and coaching, you actually get an autocorrect for culture. And let me explain those two things a little bit more in detail. So, obviously, there are differences in cultures, right? And it's not just diversity of culture, but also people's personal background, how people kind of grew up in terms of their education and their professional development, in terms of industry, right? And of course, in terms of geographical setting and other aspects of culture. So there's a lot of different aspects around that diversity. However, also, you see that human beings, they have a lot of things in common, right? Their common values are things like honesty and truth, about kind of empathy and care. All these aspects are very common around any culture or human being. So that unites people. And on the back of that, you also see that companies, they have their core values and their leadership competencies across the organization that they want to embed in the culture. Mm-hmm. So the key is not so much about, how do you deal with all the diversity, but how do you bring diversity and those commonalities together in leadership and coaching. And that's the key to do that. And one way to do that is to really involve coworkers well, because leadership, in essence, is co-creating change with coworkers, right? People do that everywhere around in their organization, and that involvement of coworkers is then the key.
Well said. So let's now talk about the triple win leadership coaching methodology, which is also your book. And if you'd like to show your book to our audience, that
I would love to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So the book came out just a few weeks ago. It has been a bestseller already very quickly. So very excited about this.
Wonderful. So my first question about your book and your methodology is, what inspired the creation of the triple win leadership coaching model?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, there were two aspects that really created or inspired that. So one is that there was this frustration that the investment in coaching doesn't really create results that people hope for. And then investment really becomes a cost. It's not an investment, because if there's no results, then it's not a return on investment. So part of the logic is, how can you create a coaching system that creates a tangible and measurable and sustainable return on investment? That is one thing. And the other thing on the back of that is that as we were coaching leaders, we kind of saw and knew that teams get better and that results get better. And at a certain point, together with clients, these questions are raised. Well, if leaders get better, we know that because we're measuring that. But, how do the teams and the results get better? So we said, okay, let's start measuring that too. And then we saw that leaders get better and teams get better and results get better. And there was another very interesting aspect that came out of that, is that in the beginning, coworkers were involved as the leader was asking them for suggestions. But as we were also measuring or asking these same coworkers, how does the team get better and how do the results get better, that involvement actually evolved into or changed into accountability. They realized, well, leadership is not just about the leader. It's also about how it impacts us as a team and how we as a team get better. And if the leader gets better, the team gets better, how does that really impact our results? And that's how that whole triple win was born, and also structured to make sure that we measure how the leader gets better, how the team gets better, and our results get better.
So those are three pillars of triple win that you just spoke about. But can you also help me understand the meaning of triple win when it comes in the context of leadership?
So the triple win means that the leader becomes better, the team becomes more effective, and the performance results improve. So triple win means better leader, better team, better results.
But how is this different from the other coaching methodologies?
So most coaching methodologies, they focus on what you could define as the 4 A's. So the A for awareness, creating awareness, the second A for creating acceptance, and from there create an action plan. And most coaching approaches stop there. So they help the leader to be more aware, to accept some things that they want to change, and to make an action plan around that. And then that's it. And we actually go on to the last A being achievement, because only when achievement, i.e. results, have been realized and recognized by coworkers, then leadership change has really happened. And
sorry, go ahead.
So based on data we have of more than 100,000 leaders that we have coached, we know that if you focus only on the first 3 A's, awareness, acceptance, and action, that even after 1 year, only 18% of coworkers confirm that they are satisfied with the improvement of the leader. So that's 1/8. If you continue to involve coworkers well and go to that last A of achievement, then actually there are 95% of coworkers who confirm that they are satisfied with the improvement of the leaders, the teams, and the results.
Very interesting.
So that's the big change.
Yeah, very interesting. But Will, why is co-worker involvement so central to your approach? What role does co-creation play in your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, so many times I ask coaches, how come in leadership coaching coworkers are not involved? Because if you look at leadership, the essence of leadership is co-creating change with coworkers, right? Leaders do that in developing products, in managing projects, in managing kind of safety systems in the organization, managing their supply chain, managing a kind of agile or IT system development. All these things, people do that with coworkers. And then the other part is that a leader is not an island, right? Leadership doesn't happen in the leader's office. It happens out there, right? In the at the workplace, in interaction with coworkers. That's where leadership happens. So coworkers are involved in leadership by default. And therefore, if the leader wants to change, you need to involve them. Because if you don't involve them, people don't see it.
Right.
Now, the question might be why people don't see that leaders change, but that could be something we discuss now or later. Yeah.
Sure. But my next question is, what are some of the most common limiting beliefs you have helped leaders overcome?
Well, so there are two things. Sorry, many things we talk about have two aspects here, but so there's the aspect of coachability, right? So can and want leaders to be coached, and there are some limiting beliefs. And then the other aspect is what are some of the most important things that leaders choose to get better at, right? These are more behaviors rather than beliefs. Now, limiting beliefs are mainly that leaders obviously have a very important need to kind of control their environment, their destiny, their direction, right? So part of getting better is to relinquish some of that control, right? You have to experiment with yourselves, right? That's what we did when we were young and grow up, and that's why we went to school. So trying to change things means experimentation, and part of that is some things might work and some things might not work. And for some leaders, giving away some of that control is difficult. And then the other aspect is that people need to be willing to be kind of vulnerable, right, to themselves and to their environment. That also means you need to kind of let your ego not play a big role in what you do, and then center yourself as a leader, not thinking about me, but thinking about we.
Right.
And one of the quotes that always comes to mind when we have this discussion is Gandhi's quote on humility. Many times leaders feel that humility is somebody who is kind of low on ego and kind of a doormat type of approach. But I like Gandhi's quote. He says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but humility is thinking about yourself less often. And I think that is so true. It's really about thinking about yourself less often. This means, hey, be vulnerable, forget about your ego. It's not important, right? Take some risks, right? Give away some control. It's not about you. It's about the people around you, right? Take that approach. So these are some of the limiting beliefs that are most challenging, and we tackle that right from the beginning. Because if leaders cannot get over that, then actually they also prove themselves not to be coachable or not to be willing to change.
Great response. Thank you. My next question is, Will, how do you align leadership development with business KPIs like productivity, engagement, or revenue?
Yeah, that's a good question. And clients many times obviously ask us this question as well, because they ask, what is the result that we're shooting for? And we basically reverse engineer that, right? We are basically asking clients, one of the questions is, okay, what are some of the, if you look at your strategy and where you're going in the next 5 years, what is the number you want to change, right? And I basically they have some numbers around maybe market share, right? Maybe revenue, maybe profit, maybe productivity, maybe people engagement or attrition. They have a number somewhere, right? That number is either on the P&L or in their strategy document or in their engagement survey.
Right.
So we basically asked them, pick a number, right? Pick any of the number that you want to change. And then the next discussion is, okay, well, what are some of the behaviors or competencies that are currently not developed enough that you need to change and you think are connected to those numbers, right? So, for instance, revenue can be related to we need more new clients, we need to contract our contracts faster. Right? The whole thing with AI is we need to be more productive, right? So all these aspects, you can kind of connect behaviors to numbers, and then pretty much you have the bare bones of your business case together, which then further needs to be filled out at the start of the coaching engagement. But that's how we connect those things. And the nice things about that is that the numbers that clients are shooting for to improve, they have the systems to monitor how those numbers develop, right? So we don't really need to put any effort at that. They have more numbers than we wish they had.
Well said. You also talk about a 95% measurable effectiveness rate.
Yeah.
How do you make this possible? And how do you sustain the success rate across multiple cultures?
Yeah, so that 95% success rate literally means that 95% of coworkers are satisfied with the improvements of the effectiveness of the leader, with the improvements they made in the team, and the improvements of the performance results they created. So it's 95% on all those three measure points individually, right? Now, part of that's just part of the key to sustain it is to make sure that you're measuring all three, okay? Because that creates not only involvement of coworkers, but also accountability of coworkers. And then the other part is that you need to do that for at least 9 to 12 months, because you want to move from people just making that change within their team and making it visible. You want to create it into habits, but then you want to anchor that into the culture of the organization or in the culture of the team. And that's what you need your coworkers for, and you need to do that with your coworkers. So it takes some time. We call it time to thrive. And we know that with 12 months, we have a 95% success rate consistently across countries and cultures and everything for that to happen.
Amazing. There's another very interesting word that I picked up when I was reading about you, which is feed forward. What is the significance of feed forward rather than feedback in your coaching approach?
Yeah. So feed forward actually was invented quite a few decades ago. I'm by heart I'm a supply chain engineer and supply chain IT systems engineer to be exact. And feed forward is used in that environment already since the 1960s, where you basically use data to understand problems in advance and then take corrective measures proactively. So, and that basically has moved into leadership over time. First, actually, by the Japanese when they were doing their quality system approach, and over time, people like Marshall Goldsmith and a few others basically built that also into leadership. And the nice thing about feed forward is that it's about future-focused suggestions, right? So it doesn't criticize the leader who is, let's say, if a leader wants to get better at decision-making and execution, then a suggestion is about doing something in the near future, like in the next 30 days. So like listen better to people, don't interrupt people. And that future suggestion, that feed forward, is task orientated. So it doesn't talk about the leader, it talks about the task. It's a suggestion, so it's not a criticism of the past. And it also helps coworkers to share their point of view that helps them in that interaction with the leader, that is irrespective of what the leader thinks.
Yeah.
So it's a very easy way to course correct that behavior that the leader wants to improve. And it's very easy for the coworkers to provide suggestions without feeling kind of strange about it or feeling that they fear reprisal from their manager.
Amazing. I have time for 3 more questions. My next question is, which leadership behaviors have the greatest positive ripple effect across teams and business units?
So we actually have a list of the top 100 most frequently selected leadership growth areas. And if I think about the most, among that top 100, which are the most important ones where you see the biggest impact, and most leaders are really focusing on, are things like delegation and empowerment, stakeholder management, because it's very popular, and involving others in decisions affecting them, kind of coaching and developing their team,
right?
Engaging people at work, so also being inspiring and motivating and engaging at the same time. Strategic thinking, so casting that strategy vision for the organization and communicating that so that people are aligned with that and can work towards that. And then helping people to achieve their goals as it relates to what they're doing for the organization.
Right. Well said. 2 more questions. What are some of the biggest challenges for an organization like the Global Coach Group to scale personalized leadership coaching across large global organizations?
Yes. So we have been thinking about that question for the last 25 years. So in the meantime, we figured it out, how to tackle that challenge. So what clients want, obviously, is the same results of 95% across their organization, irrespective of the leader and the culture and the type of problem we're tackling. So they want the same success results. And in order to do that well, we know that you need to have a structured approach that you can make bespoke for every leader in every type of environment. So we have basically tackled that. And then you need, like in our case, more than 4,000 coaches around the world, which are kind of trained and certified and use the ICF competency model in delivering that service to clients. So that also means leaders can pick the coaches that fit best with them and with their problem and with their environment. And then last but not least, and we developed that now for the last 10 plus years, is use technology to basically bring coworkers into that conversation in a very time efficient manner, and also manage that the coaching service is efficiently and effectively implemented with the client. So it's a combination of coworkers, coaches, and technology, and bring that all together.
Amazing. Thank you. And my last question for you, Will. In a future where AI and automation are increasingly beginning to play a growing role in organizations, in leadership, how does the human touch of coaching stay relevant?
Yes. So that's actually a question I've been pondering about for quite a long time, because I mean, early this century, when the internet really came, right? I always told people, as a coach, you were the guru early on because you knew everything. But now Google has become your guru, right? Google knows more than you as a coach know. Okay? And now AI has basically, or is overtaking Google in so many ways already, as we can see. So AI is now the new guru, right? Knows more than the coach. And we use actually AI as the coach's friend and partner in the coaching journey.
Mm.
Now, the role of the coach is not to impart more knowledge. The role of the coach is not to be the guru for the client, right? Because AI and Google are much more cheaper than a coach can provide knowledge to the leader being coached. And the challenge for leaders is not to be more smarter and have more know-how, but the challenge for leaders is to convert that know-how into their specific environment with all the diverse and specific people they work within the organization. I always call it their crazy work environment. And to convert that know-how into show-how, that is the specialty of the coach. And that is something that AI will not be able to touch for quite a little while, right? Because AI can be a great advisor, but AI doesn't know all the intricacies of all the other people at work and how things are going and the problems at work. And the leader and the coach have much more insight in that. And of course, the coworkers have a much more insight in that.
Absolutely.
So the advice giver, the coworkers are much better advice givers to the leader than AI will be for a long time.
Absolutely. And on that note, and your wonderful words of know how to show how, thank you, Will, for speaking to me about your own journey. I thought we had a great conversation on your Triple Win Leadership Coaching book and methodology. We spoke about Triple Win. We spoke about coworker involvement. We spoke about limiting beliefs. We also spoke about 95% measurable effectiveness rate of feed forward and the impact of AI. Thank you for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.